I'm Joe Kramer, composer for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to listen to Movie Week in Review from the Geekcast Radio Network.
Say, Jarvis, is it that time?
The house party protocol, sir?
Correct.
This is Dave. He really enjoys going to the movies. He's always considerate to his fellow moviegoers. This fellow is disturbing everyone around him. Oh, look, Dave is shutting off his phone. Now is not the time for talking or texting. Oh, well, now look at that. There's a true movie-watching friend. Let's all be more like Dave.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review.
Yippee-ki-yay. 21 gigawatts!
Gentlemen, you will always remember this as the day that you almost called Captain Jack Sparrow.
License and registration. Chicken.
Who am I to argue with Captain Jack? Sounds like fun.
And now, the latest in movies with M-Wire.
Second start of the run. And straight on till morning.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
Hello and welcome to M-Wire. This is Movie Week in Review here on the Geekcast Radio Network. And ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the 200 episode club, and that's where it stops. For 9 years now? Yeah, 9 years now. Yep. I don't remember. Hell, it's 9 years, 200 episodes. Who the hell can keep it all straight? 9 years now, Movie Week in Review has been covering movies, and this was when, way back when Steve and I started up the network. We're like, oh, okay, so we have all things Transformers, we have Geekcast Radio, we have Tooncast, let's do a movie show. So I am, of course, TFG1 Mike, as you can clearly tell by the sound of my voice. And joining me, as always, Steve Megatron.
Who?
I don't know who that guy is.
He's here.
He's
waiting.
He's unployable. Ah, no, you were supposed to save that for the end. Jackass.
There's no buts about it.
So, folks, yes, we are ending M-Wire. I was going to find a way to rejuvenate it. There was going to be a special series segment called M-Wire Docs, where we discuss documentaries like Becoming Bond or
James Bond,
the Bill Finger Batman, Batman and Bill documentary, or the documentary about the score about the film music thing. Like, there was going to be a whole new series of M-Wire. There was actually going to be a whole new design of the show and go decade by decade and looking at double and triple features of movies, drive-in style, but sadly that's not happening right now because I'm too damn busy, you're too damn busy. Well, actually, you've gotten a lot less busy these days.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes. We won't go into that here. But Movie Week in Review, I can't believe it's been 9 fucking years. It just boggles my mind. Alright, so, let's see here. What are some of your, do you remember most of the discussions that we had back then about starting this show? Because I clearly don't, obviously.
Oh, you're saying are you saying the conversations of crafting the show?
Yeah, exactly.
I do know that I brought the initial concept to you when I was planning on doing the show originally as Weekend at the Movies. Mm-hmm. Through TF-Wire, and because that idea never took off, and I had Movie Week in Review as my secondary title, and we were in conversation because I was doing all things Transformers and you were starting the TFG1 podcast. We were like, hey, let's start this thing called the Geekcast Radio Network. Have this giant network of shows. and let's do a movie show. And we were like, so what do we want to kind of do? And we're like, well, we don't want to do the thumbs up, thumbs down like Roger Ebert thing because we thought that was lame. We were like, and critics suck. So we were like, let's do our own thing where we kind of just talk, and then we find things that we enjoy of the and talk about movies we like. And then we were like, at some point there turned more of, how do we get through this episode because it sucks of the movie content. Like after we got through it, we're like, there's not much here to go on, and so here's your 15 minutes of fame, and then see you later. Some of the movies were like that, but for the majority of it, we had a lot of fun with a good 90% of the shows that were on here, and kind of crafted it to be this kind of movie juggernaut of the network, even though it's had its ups and downs and grand hiatuses at points. It served its run.
Mm-hmm. And Cinema Geeks has been going strong. We'll talk a little bit more about that show here in a bit. That's Optimus Solo, Movie Revolt, and Hard Candy Mandy, along with Ridley Scent over there. We'll talk about that in a little while. But it's one of those things where I just mentioned it a couple months ago. The pull bag, GCRN has hit its 9-year mark. We hit 10 years next year. The pull bag has essentially been almost half of that time. This has been there since day one, because this and Tooncast have the same, and along with the network, have the same anniversary, June 1st. And it's one of those things where, holy crap, we've been talking about movies for 9 years. You're right, it has had its ups and downs with episodes and things, and I've always tried my best to just turn the podcast face on and whatever else is infecting my life at the time 9 years ago or whatever it was, just like put it out of my mind for 35 minutes to an hour and a half or whatever. But sometimes you kind of can't help real life seeping into podcasting, so
like when you're unemployed. It's a funny joke now. So
somebody get him a job. Somebody give him a job. He can
I'm
run
having fun with this, but I really do need a job.
Yeah, you do. You're going crazy, more than usual. And I've always, back when we started, I'm like, ooh, I can just run through my entire, 3 DVD shelves of movie collection to make up the entire schedule, the entire list, and
that's what essentially we did. We kind of both went through our entire list.
Essentially, yes. We went through our entire collections. We've covered probably 95% of what we both had, or at least what we were both interested in, because half the movies that I had that I wrote down, you either were okay to talk about or you enjoyed them or whatever. And those few times that you weren't on, it was just something that you weren't that interested in or didn't think you could add something to.
Well, it was that, or I was like, I have zero interest. Like, when it came to James Bond, I was like, barf. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But that's also the same boat for you when I was like, I'm talking pirates. You're like, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we don't have... just because we're best friends for, 10 years or so at this point, doesn't mean we have to like everything. That would just be boring.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, that would be really weird. Next thing you know, we're going to start finishing each other's sentences. Then we really have to have psychological help done.
Like Step Brothers.
God, no.
It's crazy.
There are plenty of movies that we were not going to cover ever. For the two of us to talk about them, there were plenty of movies we were not going to cover.
Like Spice World.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say I would mind covering that, or I wouldn't mind covering that, but I was thinking more along the lines of, the big hairy feet people with rings and all that. Ugh.
What, Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, no.
There's nothing wrong with that. The Hobbits.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
The Hobbit. It's like the prequel we didn't need because it was 3 movies of 3 hours apiece, and it could have been 3 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or 3 episodes, 1 hour apiece.
Exactly. But probably not. There were several plans to do more spotlights and other things. Like we had like a second Sandler spotlight we were gonna do and that kind of thing, but it never really happened. As far as the long list of movies goes, I think I had us planned out to almost next year. Like when I originally made the list, I planned, that was back in 2009. I basically planned 10 years of this show. And my ultimate goal was as long as we reached 100 episodes, I was fine. Anything after that is just gravy. So the long list of movies. We had spotlights like the Batman spotlight, which is our first DC spotlight, which included the 89 film Returns Forever, Batman and Robin. I think it had Batman Begins in there as well at the time. Maybe
Pretty
Dark
sure
Knight. Yeah. Because I know we did Dark Knight Rises, obviously way, way later outside of that. There was the Superman spotlight, which basically includes all of the Superman movies from Superman 1 to 4, Supergirl, Returns, and Man of Steel. Brandon Routh is so much better as the Atom. He's one of the worst Supermen ever. Dan and I had done the Superman spotlight. We'd also done the James Bond spotlight, which I've always been a huge Bond fan, and especially when Pierce Brosnan took over the role 20 some odd years ago now. In 95 with GoldenEye, I absolutely loved that. You and I did the Police Academy films, so there was that. So we did the Mahoney and the High Tower and all that. Let's see, what else was there? The Sandler spotlight, like I had mentioned, which I think it was his early stuff. So Billy Madison,
Billy Madison, it was
Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, Wedding Singer, that kind of stuff. His good movies, not his Netflix crap.
Well, even the second spotlight was going to cover stuff that was good.
Yeah.
It was the stuff that's come since. It's like, yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, no. And we've had plenty of other movies and other things that we've done over the 9 years. And it's just, it's ending. Like, I mean, I will say right now, folks, and I'll say this at the end, there are going to be a few special episodes here and there after this, but M-Wire is pretty much put to bed at this point. I've come up with a new idea. Whether it gets off the ground or not is a whole other can of movie worms. But this show, I know this show, a lot of people had listened to it. I think we have like 13 reviews on iTunes. I think. I could be wrong. You know, and I know a lot of people had interacted with it and told us, oh, this is wrong, or that's wrong, or we agree with this, or we like your opinion on this, and everything else. And it's been great having people, you know, interact with us over the last 9 years. But we're tired.
Well, and I think the show is tired.
Yeah, it's... Like I said a little while ago in this episode, I had come up with a format to revamp it. And that format is now going to be whatever the next new movie show is that we do, if we do it. And I felt that the new format that I'd come up with would have been a good resurgence for this show. But, you know, when it's time to, you know, put away the film reels and the canisters and the digital and all that, it's time, you know. You can't spend all of your time on the same thing for years and years and years and just let it degrade. And I think at this point, at certain points throughout MWire's life, as you said, it's probably been the one podcast that has had the most lengthy of hiatuses. Like, it's always come back, but the hiatuses for MWire were longer than we initially anticipated them to be. Of course, there's another show on the network that has had a almost 10 or 12 year hiatus at this point. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. That's not my show, so... So, let's see. Getting into this, I do want to bring up really quickly, before we get into the next topic here. October 8th of 2013 is when MWire Weekly, a.k.a. the future Cinema Geeks show, debuted. And they had stopped posting on the MWire feed on June 23rd of 2014. So, Cinema Geeks started out as MWire Weekly. It eventually tried to become Weekend at the Movies, and then it became Cinema Geeks. As I said earlier, go check out Kevin, Amanda, Dan, and Matt over there. They do a great job. They do essentially what you wanted to do originally, which was include the news and include the trailers and include this and include that and do all these other things, which I just could not have done at the time. I really loathe having to produce news podcasts.
See, I don't mind it so much. I actually enjoy it because there's always a new, fresh amount of news. Plus, it's not actually reviewing anything per se. It's reviewing the news of what, basically giving commentary.
Right.
Which I don't mind on that aspect. I just don't want to watch a movie and give commentary. Although if the money's right and people want to pay me to do that, I will do that and gladly accept my punishment.
There's like I said earlier, there are 3 episodes which you probably will not do. My original plan to commemorate any anniversary here recently for MWire would be that Optimus Solo and I do commentary on all 3 Back to the Future films. And now that he and I live in the same state, we could actually do it live in person. Not necessarily live streaming on Spreaker or whatever, but just live in the same room, so we're not having to worry about it being over Skype or whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I like commentaries every now and then. As long as everything goes off without a hitch, I can deal with them. They're cool. Again, it depends on the movie. It really does. So there is that. So let's jump on the casting couch and talk about some of these co-hosts we've had. Obviously, there's been you and I, because, hello, we created the show. Optimus Solo, JT from Saskatoon, Jeremy Fine, Dodd, Art Danner, Michael Powers, Doug Abel, Dan Clark. All these episodes that we've done with these guys, whether it was you and I doing it, whether it was me doing it, or whatever, it has just been such a blast. Because, as you said earlier, everybody, like with the news stuff, everybody offers their own opinion. Everyone offers a different opinion. And I always tried to cater each episode to whatever co-host actually wanted to watch and talk about the movie, whether it was you or not, with me. And I just want to thank all of them. I know there have been more co-hosts than that. There have been more special guests than that. And as great and amazing as Kevin's GCRN history document is, I could not sit here going through the entire thing of MWire's category, looking at each host and figuring out which one actually had episodes on this show. But
it would take us all too long to recount everyone. So thank you to everyone who has joined the show at some point or another.
Exactly. We are going to give our own personal, and hopefully Steve did this right, because he tends to not do this right. We're going to give our own personal top 10 MWire favorite episodes. We'll do honorable mentions at the end. These are episodes we recorded, produced, released, obviously, over the show's 9-year lifespan that we absolutely had a blast on doing. So what is your number 10, sir?
Back to the Future. And I'll say that only because it was our first foray into the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it still needs an honorable mention, even though it could probably use a redo.
That's why the commentaries were scheduled.
So anyways, yeah, that was the very first episode of the podcast, and so I felt it was deserving of a top 10. However, it's not my favorite episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was still a learning experience.
Right. My number 10 is, I believe it was myself, Dodd, and David Double D Dennis. Batman Forever, from the Batman Spotlight. I just felt that was it was something that happened early in the show's lifespan, and I just felt that it was super fun, and it was super interesting to do that with them. And basically get American versus Canadian opinions of Batman and Val Kilmer and Nicole Kidman and all of that. So I absolutely love that episode. What is your number 9?
Die Hard.
It's not a Christmas movie, damn it.
It is too.
It is not.
It is too. The first one. It's a Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, yeah, I had to put that in there just because I enjoyed the films and the love of the franchise came through in that. I think I might be uncertain on this, but wasn't Dodd on that episode?
Of course he was.
Yeah, I thought so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. For me, yeah, the Die Hard episode was super fun.
And that was before there was a fifth one, or
yeah,
whatever.
that was like right as the fourth one had come out.
That was when there were only good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
For the most part.
Exactly. For me, number 9 would have to be A Knight's Tale. I love that movie. Yeah, it was you, me, and Dodd. Yep. On Die Hard. But A Knight's Tale, I love that movie. We had given it a good review. I think it was you and I on that one. I think so. That's the Heath Ledger movie. The one where he's a knight and all that and whatever.
I didn't watch it, but I think I skated through it. Because
What
occasionally I would do that.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged. But I think what the point of recording it together is you'd seen it and I was like, I was like, I have zero interest in this, and you were like, but this is why you should have interest.
Exactly. A Knight's Tale is just a fun story. It's one of those things where instead of having to watch like Excalibur, which Excalibur is an amazing movie, or one of the older like Arthurian legend type movies that isn't Man of the Iron Mask or whatever.
Wasn't Excalibur the one that had Sean Connery in it?
I'm not sure. No. That was First Night.
Oh, First Night. Okay.
Yeah, it was him and Richard Gere and Julia Ormond.
Yep.
That was First Night.
One.
Yeah. A Knight's Tale. It's not a retelling of the Arthurian legend, but it's basically the tale of this kid from one of the not royal towns in England, and he basically finds out he's descendant of a royal line. He goes and becomes this knight character and everything else. It's just it's basically medieval times with rock music, and that's why it's fun.
So it's you said he finds out he's royal.
Mm-hmm. He finds out that he is from a royal line. So basically, he is allowed to be a knight because he was descendant of a royal line. So it's not necessarily that he's king or prince or whatever, but
it's Princess Diaries, but the male version.
Oh my God, no! Don't you fucking dare!
I did.
No,
it just took me forever to come to that conclusion.
Oh my God, that is
I've finally done it. I've created havoc in the last episode of the show.
Oh, just wait, because
wait, there's more.
Yeah. What is your number 8, sir?
The Mask. because I had so much fun with that.
Yes.
I love Jim Carrey movies almost more than, actually, I will say more than Adam Sandler films. And I go through these periodic spotlights where actors will be in multiple films I watch. Like, I will go through not really thinking about it, but I will pick movies where, like, for instance, I'll go through like a Tim Allen spotlight, or I'll go through a Adam Sandler spotlight, a Jim Carrey spotlight, depending on my mood, what type of movie I jump into, but or a Nicolas Cage spotlight, or which is pretty much the same movie over and over, but just different setting. So it's a lot of fun to do, like one of those, and the fact that The Mask is one of those 90s shows that I really resonated with and loved as a kid. I couldn't go without having this on my list.
Yeah, exactly. For me at number 8 is Damn the Man, Save the Empire, Empire Records. I love this movie. This movie basically encapsulates how I feel about, like, the movie is basically about these kids at a record store and how they all love to work there and how they all love the music and whatever else. This, to me, is exactly how I feel about soundtrack scores, whether it be movie or TV or whatever, and how excited I get for those and how in-depth I go to be able to review those and things like that. That's what this movie is to me. And it has so many good lines, and trust me, folks, not every day should be Rex Manning Day. But still a super, super fun film, and the recording for that was just really, really cool. What is your number 7?
My number 7, and we're waiting for spotlights, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just verifying. Galaxy Quest.
Were you on that episode?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I still enjoy Galaxy Quest.
I don't remember. The reason why I say that I don't remember, because I remember something about you saying, "You recorded that? Why didn't you contact me?" I
don't think I was on it, but still I enjoy the fact that Galaxy Quest was in this.
Oh,
no, you got Doug Abel.
Yeah, I got Doug for that.
And Nicole Hailstorm.
Oh, that's right.
I was like, you dick. I was like, I like that show. But still, like, I still have to put it in there because it's the best Star Trek parody we've ever gotten. And now the Orville is like the best Star Trek parody we've ever gotten. Mm-hmm. And also Star Trek Discovery is the best Star Trek parody we've ever gotten. I had to throw that in there. But anyways, the best film parody we've ever gotten was Galaxy Quest, with Tim Allen playing the William Shatner-esque role. Mm-hmm. So, and you have Hans Gruber in it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's hilarious. The reason at the time that episode was happening was because I thought it was an anniversary for it, but I could be wrong. The other reason why was because I was trying to get the soundtrack score from La La Land Records, and it just never came, or something happened where my contact must have gotten busy or something, and that happens, and that's fine. But that's one of the reasons why. Oh no, it was the soundtrack thing. Plus they had come out with, which this you and I can do eventually in the poll bag. M-Wire is now with fireworks in the background because we're recording this right before the 4th of July, and the village of Gurnee has decided to run fireworks shows at Six Flags Great America. From now until the 4th of July, which you'll be hearing this after the 4th of July. But anyway, the reason why the Galaxy Quest episode had happened was because, number one, it was the soundtrack that I was trying to get, and number two, they had just come out with a comic series for it. It was like a little 6-issue mini-series or something that IDW had done. Mm-hmm. So you and I can cover that at some point, because I never did end up covering that in the pull bag, so you can still talk some sort of Galaxy Quest thing in the future. Yeah, I remember when I set that to publish and it released, and you DM me at, like, I don't know, 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. You asshole! I'm like, what? What did I do?
Did too.
Oh, crap. My number 7 is Gone in 60 Seconds. Speaking of Nicolas Cage, it's probably one of, if not the only Nicolas Cage movie that I actually enjoy watching multiple times. I just love the character of Memphis Reigns. I love that whole movie. You've got Delroy Lindo in there. You've got Timothy Olyphant in there. You've got a future Doctor Who person in there in what's his name? Oh God, I should know this. Not Christopher Eccleston. He plays the villain in Gone in 60 Seconds. And I love the soundtrack to that movie, so that was a super fun episode for me to put together, being able to throw in some of the soundtrack bits. What is your number 6, sir?
Okay. Spaceballs.
I'll talk about that later, but why was this your number 6?
Because it took place after the Star Wars spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Which was already atrocious because it was 6 hours long.
Technically, including Spaceballs, it's over 6 hours, but the Star Wars spotlight by itself is in total 5.5 hours.
And we had running gag between myself, Kevin, and Don against you the entire game.
Assholes.
And then there was the fact that Spaceballs is like the best Star Wars parody there ever was, and still entertaining to this day.
Mm-hmm.
The radar's jammed.
That's before we ever. If we ever stop doing Geekcast Radio Network, or if I die before that happens,
I'll beat you there first.
I don't think so. My health issues are a lot worse than yours at this point. Anyway, we have to get an interview with Michael Winslow. I have to have Radar on the Geekcast Radio Network.
It would be funny to have him do like a riff theme song, like with a bunch of sound effects, and then he's having a one-off battle against himself.
Yep.
It would be hilarious.
Yes, it would. What is your number 6, sir?
Didn't I just tell you Spaceballs?
Oh. I can't concentrate. My number 6 is it's a tie, but it's not really a tie. It's a franchise more than a tie, but it is our Tron and Tron Legacy episodes.
Oh, that kind of works because that was going to be my next one, so I'll just talk.
Okay, so that's your number 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had not seen Tron in years.
I had until Legacy came out, I had never seen the original because it came out in 1982. I was only 2 years old. I had never come across my viewing screen or anything like that. So I went onto YouTube at the time to see if I could find it on there. I found a full version, broken up into about 10 different videos.
See, I owned it.
Yeah, well, like I said.
So say we all. My stepdad actually owned the movie on VHS, cool. And that's how I saw it as a kid.
Very cool, very cool.
And then got to see Legacy, which was like the most awesome in the computer world movie I'd ever seen. And then there was no movie after that because the studio decided to be a douche.
Yeah. Like, I was so waiting for Tron 3. They even said, oh, Tron 3 has a new title. It's going to be Tron Ascension. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Let's do this. Oh, no, it's not happening. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me already. It's ridiculous.
I was sad when they didn't come out with it. I was very, very sad.
Especially after you see the Tron Legacy the next day, the little special thing of, who's been helping them, that kind of thing, and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want more. Can't have any. Damn it.
They're like, you no not pay money. You will not give us enough money. Disney say no. Yeah, I don't know. I was just sad that never came to fruition. It was so deserving. Plus, the soundtrack was just spectacular.
The original soundtrack was spectacular, and the legacy soundtrack with Daft Punk doing it, oh my god, I still listen to that. Like, I cannot not listen to it.
Oh yeah, it's way awesome.
Mm-hmm. So that was your number 5, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, my number 5 is a tie. Normally I don't do ties. I'm like, make a decision, pick it. But he
doesn't wear ties.
Yeah, exactly.
He wears.
I've worn a tie exactly once in the last almost year, and never again.
It's torture.
It was only because I was getting married and the tie was purple. Anyway, number 5 for me is a tie between the Mission Impossible episode. It was episode 130 of M-Wire, and it was Doug and I talking about it. Doug Abel from Talking About My Generation. I had been wanting to do... We had actually done Mission Impossible way back in the beginning. It was episode 6, I believe. It was just like the first 2 or 3 movies. With Chris Stapleton from Chicken Pot Pod podcast at the time. And when Mission Impossible 5 came out, I'm like, oh, we need to revisit this. We need to say, hey, celebrating 20 years of the IMF and whatever. And plus, I had just gotten the interview with the Rogue Nation composer, Joe Kramer. Joe's a great guy. That interview was so fun to do, and he actually gave me, which you guys have heard at the beginning of this podcast, and you'll hear at the end of this podcast as well. I wrote out for him some super cool Mission Impossible intros and outros for any of the GCRN shows. Just basically, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is the intro, and then this podcast will self-destruct in so super cool, super fun talking to Joe Kramer. Can't wait to see what else he does. And the tie with this is a triple feature film series that has plagued the Geekcast Radio Network since the TFG1 podcast days. Especially with some of the songs that were supposed to be... You asshat! Especially some of the songs that were supposed to be in the original episode that made it in there, except at a really, really slow... But yes, Beverly Hills Cop.
That was a really bad edit.
I don't know what the hell you did with that.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you say that. You say that, but you did something.
I did nothing to it.
Oh,
it would not. It was something with Audacity.
Yeah.
Audacity so screwed that up. I was like, what is going on here? I didn't even have a clue what it was doing.
So bad. But in episode 125, years and years later, you, myself, and Dodd, we finally recreated it, and finally, because by that time I was editing podcasts, so I was able to do it properly, and we actually had different editing software at the time. But the first two movies I absolutely love. I love the second movie out of all three of them the most. The third movie's okay. It has its moments, but it was done... I've said this before. When you have a franchise that, movies that are going to do sequels to each other, don't wait almost 10 years after the first one or, X number of years after the second one. Between Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Cop 3, it was between 87 and 94. That's too long. That's just way too long of a wait.
Look at Die Hard. They keep doing it.
Yeah, but that's because Bruce Willis will never die. He won't even die hard.
Hey, Nicolas Cage, though, he found the Chamber of Secrets, so that's why he never ages, so...
That's true. Number 4 for you, sir.
Number 4. Ferris Bueller. Bueller.
Yeah, that's another one that took us years upon years.
Mm-hmm.
I think we originally did do it under TFG1, and then...
I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. And then when La La Land Records, again, released a soundtrack to it finally, an official soundtrack to it, we decided, hey, and it was in 2016, so it was the 30th anniversary of the film, so we're like, hey, let's celebrate the 30th anniversary and redo it. So we redid it. Bueller. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's no problem whatsoever. God. Alright, my number 4. I know not everyone's going to have whatever. I'm probably going to get crap for this, but I don't care.
He likes crap.
Shut up. It's episode 102 of the show. It's the Need for Speed 2014 film with Aaron Paul. As I said, if you listen to, I think it's... Okay, I'm not going to be shouting louder, but I think it's episode 170 of Cinema Geeks. I had called in, or I had sent in a voicemail for them to play on whatever next new show they were going to do. I didn't realize they were going to make it its own little thing. Basically, they had reviewed Need for Speed, and I had already done it in M-Wire, and I wanted to give my thoughts, because I actually asked them if I could be on that episode, because I was more of a fan of the games than any of the hosts at Cinema Geeks were at the time. I'd been playing the Need for Speed franchise since Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, way back in the mid to late 90s. I think it came out in 98 or 99 or somewhere around there. So I've been following the Need for Speed video game franchise for years, and I've been waiting for a Need for Speed film for years. I don't care about the story in the film. I care about the story, but the story in the film isn't what matters to me. What matters to me is the cars, the locations, and the scenery, because if you nail those 3 things, anything else is just gravy on top for me, because as long as you, like I said, nail those, the cars, the scenery, and the backgrounds and all of that, and every area, they nailed it. They nailed it all, and it was just so well done, even though the plot is very standard for that film.
There's a lot of movies that are very standard.
Ain't that the truth?
Subpar.
Mm-hmm. What is your number 3, sir?
Alright, this is just getting a little difficult. M-Wire 100.
All things Trek.
All things Trek. I chose that because we were supposed to do a Trek spotlight. Film by film by film by film. And it didn't get accomplished until just before the end.
Yes. Yeah, well, again, it was a timing thing and whatever, and I specifically...
It was a scheduling problem.
That's what I'm saying. It was a timing thing. It was a scheduling thing, that kind of thing. But I specifically remember when we were going through this entire thing in the beginning, I was like, okay, Star Wars has to be at 75, and you're like, well, Star Trek has to be at 100. I'm like, okay, fine, I don't care. That's fine. That's not a problem. So... if we had gotten to either one of those places, which we obviously had, that's what those were going to be. It was already predetermined that 75 would be Star Wars, and 100 would be some sort of Star Trek or Star Trek Spotlight or something. And you guys did get one episode of the Spotlight done, and then it never happened.
Well, it fizzled because we were having scheduling problems, and I think that was during the time that Kevin was having...
internet issues or something.
Yeah, internet issues and life.
Yeah.
Issues with job stuff coming up.
I forget what it was. But yeah, Star Trek 100 was really cool. And then obviously us, finishing it up with 138 and 139. Basically just doing one episode each on the classic TOS films and then the classic TNG films.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 is the Thin Man 3 episodes that we did. We did part 1, 2, and 3 for the Thin Man. This is the 1934 Dashiell Hammett, based on Dashiell Hammett's books of Nick and Nora Charles. Jeremy Fine did that with me. I've always loved those movies. I know you're not really a black and white movie kind of guy.
Well, I won't say that. I'm okay with black and white. I don't like crappy storytelling and crappy visuals.
Okay,
I have watched black and white, like old movies from like the 60s, 50s, and I'm fine with it as long as it's a good story.
These were released to theaters from 1934 to 1947. So they're like the oldest movies you would have seen. They're basically detective movies. It's about this detective, Nick Charles, who ends up, finding all these cases in various films, and they're really good movies. So one of these days I'll have to convince you to sit down and watch them. All right, number 2, sir. What do you got for number 2?
This is a little difficult for me because I like both of these equally.
Okay.
As far as the editing process, it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to choose, but it's like choosing your 2 favorite edits, your 2 favorite children records. I'm gonna go Super Troopers. Because there was a lot that I was able to throw in there between the 38 special, Trooper with an Attitude, and the Farva bit where he's chicken. So yeah,
I still haven't seen the sequel yet.
I have not either. I have one, I wasn't able to see any of it in theater. 2, I have no idea when it hits DVD. So it's still on my list. It's just not something that, I've heard it's worse than the first one because it caters to a lot of...
The first one wasn't bad.
The first one wasn't bad, but it was definitely a cult favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were recycling a lot of the first movie concepts into the second movie, I could see where it would kind of roll over like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun to edit.
Absolutely. It looks like, it's actually coming out this month, July 17th, 2018. Yay! Because, movies don't really stay in theaters that long anymore.
It's still got a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, despite the fact that Metacritic had a 41 and Rotten Tomatoes had it at 31%. Just going to show you that these critic review aggregate sites are just total BS.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll see Super Troopers 2 eventually, but I don't know. I just never, honestly, I never thought the thing was going to ever get done, because how they got it done was through Kickstarter or something. Kickstarter, Indiegogo. It
was Indiegogo.
Okay, well, whatever. I'm just saying it was one of those, crowdfunding service things.
Well, I think they tripled their investment on it.
Yeah, and that's great. That's absolutely amazing. The thing I had an issue with, because I completely almost forgot about the fact that it had happened, was after the Kickstarter or Indiegogo, whatever, the crowdfunding campaign.
It was like 2 years before you heard anything.
Yeah, you didn't hear anything for 2 years, and meanwhile, we've got like 2 years of Justice League crap to deal with.
Okay, so they made $4.6 million.
Oh wow!
On funds, and their goal was like $2 million.
Cool.
And they were really trying to get this thing a little bit further, because they had other goals that they were going to hit. Like 4.7 was a chase scene in the movie, which I have no idea what that means, but only because like it never made it that far.
Yeah.
But I guess they did make 4.8 million, so I guess they did get that. I just clicked something where it updated. So anyways, it came out on 4/20/2018. It's I was tempted to contact them to get information on it for Altered Geek.
Right.
But it more so was like I was just having all kinds of scheduling issues, even trying to get one recorded. So I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
After a while. But yeah, I was glad that they finally did come out with information on it when they did.
Yeah. So yeah, Super Troopers, absolutely awesome. Love that movie. Love that recording that we did for it. Number 2 for me is Star Wars and Spaceballs. It's basically a 6-hour trip to a galaxy far, far away. Whether you're going the Spaceballs route, whether you're going the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. And we've kind of done the newer ones a little bit. I still have not seen Solo yet. I've seen Last Jedi.
Solo isn't that bad.
See, that's the thing. Like, everyone's saying, oh my god, these movies suck. I watched The Last Jedi, but, for the most part, I enjoyed it. There was, like, I didn't, like, shake my fist at it at all. I didn't, like, want to turn it off.
Because we're in the era of geekdom now, where we are more responsible critics than where we were when we started. Because if you remember,
oh, I know,
we were rotten just like that.
Yeah.
When we started critiquing films, we were like, "This is utter garbage. Who would watch this? Let's give it a 1 out of 10. Screw this. Blah blah blah." Like, we were just downright like hating on everything that we didn't agree with.
And don't get me wrong.
And don't get me wrong, too. There are films that do deserve a lower rating, but they, there are redeeming qualities. And I think now that we're older, we kind of see that. Whereas the modern quote unquote geek that's out there right now are just fanboy haters. Like, they're just, this sucks. You screwed me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think we kind of got broke in with like the Transformers films and our hatred of that. And then after that, we were just, like, numb to it. So we were like, I don't care. Like, whatever. It's a film.
But here's the thing, though. With, like, I'm never going to say or agree to that it's not wrong if someone hates a certain thing or dislikes it or whatever. Or if someone likes it. I don't care. Your opinion is your opinion. I have my own opinion, whatever. Either we agree or we disagree.
Everybody has one.
Exactly. Obviously. Here's the thing, though. Star Wars got sold to the mouse. George Lucas is not in charge fully anymore. It's in other people's hands.
He's not in charge at all.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's Kathleen Kennedy, who's done actually a lot of good films, and I blame Disney, really, for screwing the pooch, because they didn't put any promotion into it. It was all dumped into the Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah. But, like, I was super stoked for that. Like, okay, Last Jedi, Force Awakens. Force Awakens and The Last Jedi were the the next two in the quote-unquote third trilogy of the Star Wars, whatever it's going to be. Force Awakens I liked, but going back and rewatching it before Last Jedi, I didn't like it as much as I did Last Jedi. I enjoyed The Force Awakens, but I think it was a hurdle the second time around for me to get through Finn's whole, I'm going to go good thing. It took way too damn long. Like, yeah, it didn't take him long in the movie, but it just felt to me like this whole thing, this whole stigma of, you used to be a stormtrooper, you used to be this, you used to be, like, God, whatever. But Last Jedi, I said this online somewhere, I forget where I said it. It might have been in the episode of Altered Geek that we did. If The Force Awakens is supposed to be a pseudo 21st century version of A New Hope, the original Star Wars film, Last Jedi is a combination of Empire and Return of the Jedi. The reason why I say this is because it has both space battles and, like, on-planet battles, or not necessarily forest battles like Endor, but, it has two different settings. It runs one plot through two different story threads throughout the film, and I just felt that it was a really fun movie. I laughed like 4 times legitimately at things that were happening on the screen. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to take a bathroom break. I didn't want to go get a snack. I sat down, I watched the movie, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I think I did take one break because I had to go to the grocery store to do something, or my wife and I had to go do something. But other than that, like, it was probably the first movie this year that I've actually sat through all the way without actually doing anything else on my phone or my computer or whatever. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. I can't wait for episode 9. I just cannot wait. And I'm really excited for Solo, even though Solo is a solo film. And supposedly, according to news articles, they're now rethinking the Solo story things, because apparently everyone hated Solo or something. I forget what that news article said. But yeah, number 2 for me was the Star Wars and Spaceballs records, because the Star Wars record, we weren't sure if we were going to get that done. Because that was 5 hours in one night.
It was
for
torture.
2 podcasts.
It was torture. Cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah. I basically fed them all to the Rancor.
It's alright. We fed you to Burger King, so. Yeah.
What is your number 1, sir?
Ace Ventura.
Of course.
That was, like, my favorite film. Still one of my favorite films. Alrighty then. And I incorporated a lot of sound effects and audio elements, and it was a lot of fun to record, a lot of fun to edit. I had a lot to say on it.
Yeah, you did. So,
it's a film I haven't watched in some time that I actually would not mind going back and watching.
M-Wire commentaries 20 years later.
Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
No.
Yes.
Hell no.
Yes.
Hell
and
no.
You must be the Monopoly guy. Do not have go. Do not collect $200.
God. Yeah, I only veto When Nature Calls for one scene. The friggin'
the
bat
rhino.
guano.
Oh,
no,
look.
the bat guano.
Oh, I was like, look, the mother rhino's giving birth.
Oh, God.
And then he just like comes spewing out of the rear end of the rhino that he was inside because the air conditioner quit.
Mm-hmm.
It was so gross, but it was funny. Yeah.
Alright, folks, it is time to reveal our number 1 favorite M-Wire episodes of the past 9 years. What is your number 1, sir?
That was my number 1.
Dumbass.
Mike's losing it. He's like, it's the last episode. We're out of here, people.
We're out of here. See you later. My number 1 is Back to the Future.
You would choose that as your number 1.
It has to be.
You have to have this weird thing with symmetry.
No, but it's... Well, the coolest thing about that episode is it's probably one of, if not the only time in the GCRN history that we've had 2 Steves and not 2 Mikes. Because it's usually 2 Mikes and a Steve, or 7 Mikes and a Steve or something. So we had myself, you, and Steve Saylor from This Week in Geek on that episode. And it was just a really fun recording, hearing both of our thoughts mixed in with Snowball's thoughts as well. And that franchise is just so fun. Please, nobody pay attention to the false rumors of the 4th film. That shit popped up again. I'm like, no, there is not going to be a Back to the Future 4.
No, there's not.
No, there's not. So that's our top 10 favorite M-Wire episodes. You wanted to talk about the spotlights. What are some of your favorite spotlights that I had not mentioned previously in this episode?
You've mentioned them, but I still had fun editing some of them. Police Academy.
Yeah.
Loved that franchise. Have not watched it in years, but I'm thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ace Ventura, obviously I mentioned that as my number 1 film for the regular stuff, but like Police Academy is kind of my number 1 for the spotlights, with Adam Sandler kind of close behind. And this other one kind of holds a special spot only because it took me forever to record them all.
Pirates.
And I only did the first 4. I meant to do the 5th one, but again, that's like one of those things that'll come up randomly in the M-Wire feed in some point in the future. It'll be like, hey, there's randomly an episode of Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Because like I recorded the first 3 and then like there was nothing. And then 4 came out.
Yep.
Like years later. And I was like, hey, back for the spotlight. I think 3 was even delayed.
Yeah, 3 was delayed.
I think it did 1, 2, and then there was like nothing. And then I was like, hey, how are you going, everybody? Like, it was great. But, yeah, so, it was one of my favorite spotlights just for the fact that I could edit in some creativity and then just kind of do it on my own. It was like one of my first, like, M-Wires, like, totally on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it was cool.
Very cool. Any other honorable mentions you want to give out?
Nah.
Okay. I want to talk about Rating Pending, M-Wire Rating Pending. Movie Revolt Dan and I had done this episode. We did this February 6th of 2015. And this was basically about the, we were doing something a little different. We talked about the documentary about the MPAA. Basically, the one, I think it was Philip K. Dick that did this documentary. It was an interesting look into sort of how the MPAA works and how ratings work for films and things like that. And I was like, ooh, this is kind of what got me into, like, we were actually going to call it M-Wired. So it was M-Wire Docs. So it would be M-Wired. You know, like I said before in the podcast about talking about documentary films, certain ones that we like James Bond or the Batman one or whatever. And that was very, very cool that we had done that. Other ones that I've liked over the years, there are just so many. There was the Three Musketeers episode that we did. It was the 93 film with Mr. Charlie Sheen and Kiefer Sutherland and all that.
Duh, I'm winning.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger blood, Adonis DNA.
Mm-hmm. What does Roseanne have to say to all that?
That's what she sounds like, but
pretty much, yeah. I love doing. You and I had done two sets of holiday episodes. It was episode 21 to 23, and then 76 to 78. 21 to 23 was Christmas Vacation, Jack Frost, and A Christmas Story. Not in that order. I think Christmas Vacation was 23, and Christmas Story was 21. We'd done that because we've been doing a holiday show for Tooncast at the time. And then later we did episode 76 to 78, which was the Santa Claus franchise, which I'm still surprised there isn't a fourth film for that series. I mean,
yes and no.
Tim Allen's not that old. He can still get in the suit.
That's what she said.
I mean, he is the last man standing.
That's what she said.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's just plenty of stuff over the last 9 years that we've done that I just absolutely enjoy, and I'm so very proud that we're able to get 9.5 years out of this show.
I'm surprised you made it that long.
I know, right?
To be honest.
I know. For those of you who might be listening to back episodes, and you'll see that after episode 139, it goes to... Or no, is it 139? Yeah. After a certain number, it changes to 197. It's because Optimus Solo, in his infinite wisdom, has done some math to figure out how many total episodes MWire had done. And when we had done the switch from the 130 numbers to the 190 numbers, that's the reason why. 197, 98, 99, and then now obviously 200. So we have 200 full episodes in total over 9 years. It's just been such a fun, interesting journey. We're going to take a quick break here, folks. We're going to come back after this with final thoughts, closings, and maybe even some teasing for what's coming after MWire. We'll be back after this.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news, play movie games,
go in-depth on reviews,
and even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film. Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or GeekCastRadio.com.
Holy rusted metal, Batman. It's been 9 years of Movie Week in Review. Let's listen back to some classic MWire moments.
Hello, and welcome to episode 0 of the MWire Movie Week in Review. This was an idea that Steve had originally back when, what was it, when you were doing War Stories for TFWire?
Yes.
Yes. And then I kind of ran with it. It's basically going to be I say this is I've said this the entire time. It's going to be a genre-spanning movie review podcast, but the only genres I do not touch is horror and Western. So maybe if we want to have a guest co-host or something, kind of run it that week without me or something. Maybe it's you and somebody else that may want to do it if you want to cover horror. I particularly don't, because I don't watch horror flicks. I had been really thinking about this a lot since Steve brought the idea up to me. Some of the things we're going to be covering is 80s movies, like TFG1 Supplemental Episode 6, we covered Ferris Bueller. And then we're going to do, I think, the premiere episode, Episode 1, we're going to be talking about the Back to the Future trilogy. And I know that we're going to have Steve Snowball Sailor in on that with us from This Week in Geek. Also, I want to do a Marvel spotlight talking about all the Marvel movies with the exception of Elektra and probably the new Punisher, because, yeah, I don't like that film. So, yes. Have anything else to add other than your dog shaking her head no?
Yes, this series will be actually pretty cool. We will review movies. There may be DVD commentaries at some point. I know that we're going to cover a lot of the 80s and some early 90s movies, as well as various movies. I mean, it won't just be based on what time period they came out.
Oh no. I had also mentioned to you that I was going to do like seasonal movies, like obviously Summer Catch, which I love that movie. It's with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel and Matthew Lillard. Bruce Davison is in that. It's a baseball movie, and it takes place in the summer. So obviously summer's coming up. That'll be something that we review after we get some 80s movies done. Also, obviously, once Christmas and Thanksgiving, maybe when Halloween comes around, talking about the Great Pumpkin. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and then Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's going to be all over the place. Probably won't start the Marvel Spotlight stuff until probably after the first of the year. That way we can kind of just gear into it and work it out that way. So yeah, that's what MWire is going to be all about.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have anything else to add, Megatron?
Yes. No, actually.
Alrighty then. So I hope everybody listens to MWire, and we should let everyone know that we have a new website. It's www.geekcastradio.com. That is where all of our podcasts will be from now on. Steve is still in the process of setting that up. I forgot to mention that in the Beast Wars episode 0 thing. But anyway, yes, go to geekcastradio.com and download all the episodes. That's where all things Transformers will be, and TFG1 as well. Thanks for listening. See you later.
Bye.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Geekcast Radio's much-anticipated movie review podcast, the MWire Movie Week in Review. And in this first episode, we have a very special guest with us, Steve Snowball Sailor from This Week in Geek. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. It's a great pleasure to be on this great program that is yet only one episode old.
Yeah, well, still. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing all 3 Back to the Future films and the epicness that goes along with that trilogy. Mm-hmm. So, how have you guys been this week? Oh yeah, I should also mention, I forgot, we also have Steve Megatron with us, my co-founder with Geekcast Radio. Hello.
Yeah, we'll forget you, Mike.
He's your Ed McMahon to your Johnny Carson.
So what's been going on with you guys this week?
Steve, you go first because apparently you've been shafted this episode, so why don't you go ahead?
Mostly between work and editing various episodes of the podcast network, not really much.
Hey, you had a light week this week, buddy. You didn't have to deal with any TFG1 stuff, so it was a light week for you.
Yes, luckily.
Yeah,
I thought you were done TFG1.
Not yet. We have 3 episodes left, and my other co-host on there, Michael Wilson, forgot he had a conference to go to from yesterday throughout the weekend. So yeah, no, not yet. We have 3 episodes left.
Oh, so that's what they're calling it these days.
No, it's an educational seminar that he's going to or something.
Oh, I'm sure it's educational.
Oh, shut up. So what's going on with you, Snowball?
Pretty much just very, very busy here. Writing. Actually, believe it or not, I'm going to be doing an episode of Twig right after I'm done with this episode, so we got to hurry up. I'm kidding.
Hey, Scott!
Granted, not all of us know a wacky scientist that has invented a time machine.
Oh, I do.
Okay, well, Snowball does. But there are more good than bad things about these movies. While I never saw these films in theaters, I do remember when they first came to VHS. Yes, I said VHS. In this day and age of digital media, DVD, Blu-ray, and everything else like that, VHS is hardly ever heard of. And yet I can go on Amazon and find VHS copies of the Back to the Future films. So what are your all's general memories of just the film franchise in general? Snowball, you can go first if you want.
Oh, okay. The thing is about the Back to the Future films that I liked a lot is that it was always the first movie, especially the first movie, because it was always fun. Yeah, there was some issue. Like if you look into it further, there's more complex issues about life and. Basically, you put your mind to it to accomplish anything, much like they say in the movie, and there's a lot of more issues that are involved in this. But in general, it is just a fun movie, and that's what I liked. Like especially around that time, because since it was Steven Spielberg who was producing these movies, and then it was also Robert Zemeckis who directed them. You can't. Any movies that they make, they always try to exude a sense of fun and wonderment to their films, and especially with Spielberg. And that's what I loved about Back to the Future. Yeah, there was a lot of like technical time travel issues that a lot of people think are just weird and whacked out. But if you just take on it as a film, just as a film about just for fun, then I think that's probably the best thing that I could ever think of for a film that, especially back in the 80s.
Oh yes, these films, even though the second and third one came out in 89 and 90, these films were very much 80s films.
Oh, totally.
So, what are your general thoughts over there, Megatron?
Well, overall, I really like this series, and I have to agree with Steve. I like the first movie the best, just because there's a lot more, fun going around in it. And I remember watching these movies actually on television, because I didn't own them on VHS, but they used to have like movies on Sundays, which they don't do anymore. And I used to sit down and watch this every time I could find it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Don't remember what age I saw it at, but I remember that it's always left a mark on me that I love this series.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Actually, I actually added something to the script that wasn't in your all's emails, but I remembered something. There's an airline comic named Al April. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, but he does these things called autonyms. What he does is he'll take, like Ford, and make a sentence out of the first letters of each. Like Ford is found on road dead, flip over, read details, stuff like that. Well, he has one for DeLorean. Don't ever lend one rich egomaniac a lot of narcotics.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's just not a cool saying. That's just a tip on life.
Yeah.
Especially those rich kids. I mean, come on.
Hello, and welcome to the 4th episode of the M-Wire Movie Week in Review. Today we're going to be discussing the Die Hard film franchise. I am TFG1 Mike, and as usual, I am joined by Steve/Megatron. Hello.
Howdy.
And as a super special guest is with us, Mike the Birdman Dodd from This Week in Geek and various other shit that he does. Hello.
What's up, motherfucker?
How are you?
I am alive, despite having the Black Plague of Death flu last week.
You mean the bird flu?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was the bird/swine flu from West Nile. It was terrible.
Oh, good lord.
With like a little bit of AIDS mixed in there. It was terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's right. I went there. Ha
So what have you been up to this week, Birdman?
Well, this past week I decided to do a little bit of shopping, and I bought my first arcade machine this past week. I'm going to be picking it up next week. I'm going to be restoring an X-Men vs. Street Fighter cabinet back to original retail. I'm just looking for side art right now. I bought my marquee last night, which is the header that goes at the top of the machine. And I'm currently looking at different JAMA PCB boards. I found one that has Marvel vs. Capcom on it, Darkstalkers, and a bunch of other really cool games, including Mega Man the Power Fighters. Found this all for $200. So I'm going to be saving up my dimes and nickels to get this thing in the new year.
Yeah,
nice.
That's great.
It's really, really, really sick. It's really, really, really cool.
Where the hell are you going to put it, though?
In my living room. It's going to be awesome. I'm expanding our game collection here at Twig, so my next project will be a pinball machine.
Yes, and since this is your first, I think this is your first appearance on one of our shows since TFG 116, maybe?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah, and since that time, we have now become sound monkeys for Twig.
Yes, you have. I'm going to be putting you guys to work for our... not Jurassic Park, for our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle special we got coming up with Playmates and 4 Kids and Entertainment helping us out with that one. And
awesome.
Maybe Ubisoft Montreal. Actually, I might be going to Montreal to take a look at the new TMNT Smash Up game, which will be really, really, really cool. There may even be a publicity stunt tied into it. We're going to have to wait and see.
Like that publicity stunt you did with that guy with the glasses.
Yep, it'll be interesting and intense. So hopefully I get to go to Montreal and see this really cool game come together, which is basically Smash Brothers but with Ninja Turtles.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon. Well, today's topic is the Die Hard franchise. I guess we can go into some general memories of these films. At least the first three at first, because the fourth one, it was good, but I don't think it's as epic as the other ones.
I don't know. It was pretty goddamn cool.
Let's see. When did you guys first see these, the first three, or the first three films?
Well, I guess who wants to go first?
Yes, you can, Mike.
Okay, well, I first actually saw these movies. A guy I used to be friends with named Eric had told me about them, and I'm like, well, what the hell is this? So, actually, no, it actually goes back farther than that. Then I'll get into into that story. I originally saw Die Hard with a Vengeance in theaters. Yes, I'm an old prick. So I saw that, and I didn't know what the hell it really was. I mean, I'd seen clips of Die Hard 1 and 2, didn't really know about the famous yippee-ki-yay motherfucker line, and it didn't really take with me back then. It was just a cool action movie, and so years and years later, I've got my first apartment, and it's Christmas time, and I'm spending Christmas by myself, and my friend Eric comes over to the house, and he brings these movies with him, the Die Hard trilogy at that time. And he's like, hey, Mike, I got some cool Christmas movies. I'm like, all right, you're kidding me. Christmas movies that are named Die Hard. Okay, I'll bite, sure. And we sit down and watch them, and I just thought they were, like, tremendously cool. I remember sitting down, having a few drinks, just watching these movies with shit blowing up and people getting shot. And it really reawoken my love of action movies like Michael Bay, and I enjoyed some of John McTiernan's earlier work with Predator and whatnot. Although to a lesser extent, Last Action Hero, that movie sucked. So yeah, I just kind of got into it, and then Die Hard really came back for me when a friend of mine on Twitter at Closet Geek Show introduced me to the song Die Hard by Guys Night, right? And this was just before the fourth movie had come out, and I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. So I watched the Die Hard movies again, this time with my girlfriend, and just fell in love with the film series yet again.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower to meet with Holly. He came to get her back and to be her man, but Hans and his buddies fucked up the plan, and that's about when everything went sour. At the Christmas party, and the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis, and with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die as hard as we can. No one dies harder than John McClane. distraction. And there was no way McClane could know that Hans Gruber was Simon's bro. And that's what made it Die Hard with a vengeance, with Samuel Jackson. And the good cop wouldn't miss this, even though it wasn't Christmas. He didn't get any help from Alan, but only in part 3. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die as hard as we can. Finally we're back with John McClane. Now we got a choice and the choice is plain. We can live free or we can die hard as we can. From taking on a terrorist he's never met, to taking on an F-35 jet with the greatest car explosions by far. They sure look sweet, man, and we know what the basic gist is. There ain't no Allen and it's not Christmas. We don't know, but we're pretty sure that John McClane kicks ass. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die hard. We're gonna die as hard as we can. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
We get together, have a few laughs.
What about you, Steve? When was the first time you saw him?
Can't really recall when I first saw it. I remember seeing the first one. I used to sit and watch a lot of the 80s and early 90s movies with my dad. So I remember sitting there watching the first one of this and liking it. I don't think I seen the second one until like a couple years ago, and then I kind of had a refresher when you sent me the video.
Yeah.
Then for the most part, the third one I remember seeing kind of off and on, and usually would catch it from like halfway through. Yeah. And never had seen the full thing until now. Oh. And the fourth one, unfortunately, I have not able to had time to get my hands on it this week.
Yes, it's actually sitting right here next to me. I was watching it before we started recording tonight, so.
Same here, actually.
Walt sent me.
Does anybody understand what this duck is saying?
I am TFG Mike. I am the host of Tooncast and M-Wire, and this will be the first one out of two of the Tooncast M-Wire crossovers. Today we are going to be discussing Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I am joined by fellow podcaster and world-renowned author of the Caffeine Collection, Steve Snowball Sailor of This Week in Geek. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. I say hello 3 times because it's just as epic to be on this show.
Yes, actually you'll be on 2 shows. It'll be one record, but it's going to be on both the M-Wire feed and the Tooncast feed.
Sweet. Slowly taking over the world.
Yes. So the reason why we are doing this episode, actually it's 2 different number episodes. For Tooncast, it's episode 24. For M-Wire, it's episode 18.5. So depending on which feed you're listening to, the episode numbers will be different. The reason why we're crossing it over for both feeds is because Roger Rabbit, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, is a live-action / animation film because they combined both live-action and traditional animation in the film. And I would like to point out, before we get too far into the material, that this was not the first. A lot of people think that Roger Rabbit was the first ever live action meets animation. It was not. There were several of them done in the golden age of animation back in the 30s with Looney Tunes. The most popular one I can remember is You Ought to Be in Pictures, is where Daffy convinces Porky that he needs to go to mainstream movie and get out of animation. And they actually show Leon Schlesinger talking with Porky. Another one I can think of is when Jerry Mouse of Tom and Jerry dances with Gene Kelly. But a lot of people seem to think, and I was one of them, a lot of people seem to think that Roger Rabbit was the first ever live-action and animation film put together, but apparently it wasn't.
I think with this movie, it's more of the fact that it was the first, like, kind of full-length feature film.
Right.
That kind of sort of incorporated this, like, live action with animation. I mean, yes, obviously it's not the absolute first, but I think it's kind of the one that really was made into, like, that, because making animation and making live action film is, like, literally doubles the work. So the fact that they were able to do this at that time, that's just incredible in of itself.
Yes, yes. So how are you, Steve?
I am doing awesome. I am busy, I'm tired, and yet but it's a good busy and tired, know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, Steve just released on the 28th of October what is it, your second or third book?
It is my second book.
Second audio book. It's the Caffeine Collection, which is a dynamic podcast. Now, what the hell are you guys calling it now? I don't know.
It's a dynamic audiobook.
Ah, there we go.
Merry-go-round broke down. Quite a loony selection for a group of drunken reprobates. He's here!
Okay, we are back, and as we said in the first part of this episode, I am joined by Steve Snowball Sailor. One of the reasons why I wanted Snowball on this episode was because he had mentioned, when was it? It was a couple of months ago. You had happened to be watching Roger Rabbit, and I had just happened to remember, oh crap, we have a Roger Rabbit review coming up in November. So I was like, oh yeah, so yeah, I can probably get Steve on for that. So yeah, that's the main reason why you're here.
Cigars, cigarettes, Eddie Valiant.
Betty?
Long time no see.
What are you doing here?
Work's been kind of slow since cartoons went to color. But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop, be-doo.
Yeah, you still got it.
This movie was always one of the most famous movies. Set aside the fact that you have Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis attached to it, but Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a 1988 fantasy comedy film directed by, as I said, Zemeckis and produced by Steven Spielberg, based on Gary K. Wolfe's novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit. Ooh, I wonder if I can find that. I'd like to read that, actually.
Me too.
Yeah. The film combines the use of traditional animation and live action with elements of film noir. It stars Bob Hoskins, Charles Fleischer, Christopher Lloyd, Kathleen Turner, and Joanna Cassidy. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is set in 1947 Hollywood, where cartoon characters, referred to as toons, commonly interact with the studio system of classic Hollywood cinema. The film tells the story of private investigator Eddie Valiant caught in a mystery that involves Roger Rabbit, an A-list toon who is framed for murder. When did you first see this?
Oh, it has to be definitely when I was a kid. I remember watching it, and I could never really figure out who Roger Rabbit was at the time when I was a kid, but all I remember of Roger Rabbit was watching the little mini cartoon that they had at the beginning of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
That was probably the first time I ever saw anything of Roger Rabbit at that point. And then I remember seeing the movie afterwards. I was like, oh, it's just like one from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I really sort of enjoyed it. So I never really kind of got into, I guess, the Roger Rabbit sort of, I even to this day, I still have no idea whether he had stuff like there was an actual series of Roger Rabbit, or he was specifically made for this film.
I think now I would have to go back and watch the special features on the DVD, but I believe he was specially made for the film. I believe that they made Warner Brothers like cartoons, like the cartoon that precedes the movie, Tummy Trouble, or not? Was it Tummy Trouble? Not Tummy Trouble. But you know what I mean, the one where where Baby Herman's going after the cookie.
Yes, exactly.
I forget what it's called at the present time. You know, I'm sure people are screaming at their iPods saying, "It's this, it's this, it's this." That is set up like Warner Brothers and classic Disney cartoons as far as the intro, outro. And actually on the DVD there are, I believe it's every one that they made at the time, and they're all on here. I'm looking at the back here. Doesn't say, but I know that they're all on here. The Tummy Trouble one where he has to go to the hospital, where Jessica is dressed up as a nurse. There's one where they go to some park. You know, there's like 3 or 4 of them on there. Yeah. But I don't think he wasn't mainstream. Obviously, this film was made way after the golden age of animation, and I know traditional animation style was starting to come back in the 80s. Obviously, with them rerunning Looney Tunes on TV and showing it more in syndication. But I don't think he was ever a main part. It was a fictional part of Maroon Cartoon Studios and stuff, so I don't think it was ever a main thing. I was 8 years old when this film came out. Don't remember exactly. I might have seen it like maybe a year or 2 after it came out, like 89 or 90, but I know I never went to the theater and saw it. I know I never did that. I would have loved to have seen it in theaters.
Go, 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 while listening to Geekcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the M-Wire Movie Week in Review. I am your host, TF2 and Mike, and not as usual, Steve Megatron's not here, but Kevin, Professor Boss K. Dog Thompson from Tooncast is here. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Pretty good. I can't make all of my shows, but I can make it on this show.
Well, it's all the same. Doesn't matter. Besides, like I said in Tooncast 25, which should have already aired by the time this goes up, now that I can actually, I figured out that I can just call you on your cell phone. Now that we've figured all that out, so you should be on.
I still do.
You what?
I still feel like a celebrity though, getting the special call. Like via satellite, we have.
Yes, exactly. We're sorry, Jack Nicholson couldn't appear to accept this award in person, but we have him via satellite with a bronze copy of a gold Oscar.
The only thing better than that would be if you had me in hologram.
Ooh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Alrighty then. So we will be right back with Can't Hardly Wait.
At first it was also unbelievable. Mike Dexter wanted to date me. I know why I started dating him. I just don't know why I did it for so long.
Well, he is the most dope guy in school.
Yeah, and school's over.
This party tonight? Amanda suddenly being single? Is fate. Fate has opened me a window.
Yo, I got to have sex tonight. It took me all day, but I narrowed it down to a list of 10 very lucky finalists. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think there'll be any girls there? Are you kidding me? People may even be having sex tonight.
Get out of way! Huntington Hillside, kiss my ass!
Have you seen Amanda Beckett?
Yeah, man, I just saw her in there. I'm thinking about asking her out, boy.
Oh, God, you're a hottie. I filled this with 7 bottles of vodka last September. It's been in my freezer for...
All right, yo, check it. Time to get busy.
Who does he think he is, Brad Pitt? And you're like Gwyneth, but with bigger boobs. Oh, totally bigger boobs.
I can't feel my legs.
I can't feel my legs!
Columbia Pictures presents an event 18 years in the making. When you find out who your friends really are.
I don't think she's prettier than Gwyneth. Not even.
What your future really holds.
I am going to have sex with someone at this party.
And how one night can change your life.
I don't know about you, but I really believe that there's one person out there. And for me, it's gotta be Amanda.
There's a mirror right there. Why don't you take a look, okay? You're white.
Guys like us, we are a dime a dozen.
There is fate, but it only takes you so far because once you're there, it's up to you to make it happen.
Amanda?
Can't hardly wait.
Which team has the winning play? Huntington, Huntington, hey, hey, hey!
We are back, and unlike Tooncast, M-Wire doesn't have a format at all. This is Kevin's first movie week in review, and I basically just go through, get the wiki information, and just go down through the pages. It's too lazy to actually make an actual format for this show.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about Can't Hardly Wait. Now, when did you first? Well, first of all, this is made in 1998. So 11 years ago. When did you first see this in theaters, or did you see it on DVD or VHS or whatever?
Well, you don't know this about me unless I somehow leaked it before, but when I was in junior high and high school, I was, let's just say, obsessed with Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Who wasn't?
So, I mean, I actually owned all of her movies at the time on VHS, even the ones that nobody's heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I saw this right away. And because of that, I also actually know that Peter Fasinelli, who's also in this movie, this is not actually the first time they were in a movie together.
Oh, really?
If anyone has free time and can find it, there's a movie called Telling You that has both Jennifer and Peter on it, and I don't think it was ever popular. I don't even know if it was ever in theaters, but it's worth a watch. So yeah, I saw this right away in the theater.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Alright, folks, we are back here on Movie Week in Review, episode 200. As we've been saying throughout this entire podcast, thank you to everyone who has checked out the show. Even if you hadn't stayed with us over the last 9 years, for those of you who have, thank you so much. There is going to be something coming after M-Wire. I don't know whether that will be its own show or whether it will be under Geekcast Radio. I'm not sure. However, we do want to give you guys a little preview of what that is going to be. Originally, this was my plan for revamping M-Wire and continuing on past 200. So I'm calling it Double Feature Decades, and the idea is we're going to go by decade per year, double features. So it'll be myself, and Steve will be around for certain episodes that he wants to be on, but basically episode 1 is going to be Airplane and Airplane 2. So that episode I'll probably have the same co-host on. But episode 2 is gonna, so that's 1980. So those are okay. Technically, Airplane 2 came out after 1980, but Airplane itself came out in 1980. So the idea here is to take two films from one year and mash them up and review them. Episode 2 will be 1990. So Steve will be on the Kindergarten Cop episode, and somebody else will help me discuss Dick Tracy. Two very different films that came out in 1990. And so on and so forth. So there is that. And it's, like I said, I don't know if it's going to be a separate show under Double Feature Decades, its own title, or if it's going to be a segment under GCR, like Mayhem Mike's and La La Land Lounge. I have not decided yet. We may test it on GCR and see if people want a separate feed of it, but I don't know yet. So, again, thank you to everyone who has listened to any part of this podcast over the last 9 years. This has just been a crazy, crazy journey. And just look at us, dude, in 9 years. Look at what the fuck has happened to us. Like,
what has happened to us?
Let's see.
We got old.
We got old. You have 2 children now. I'm married. You know, a lot of stuff has happened. You know, after 25 years, I'm no longer living in Kentucky. So there's that.
There is that.
Yeah.
No, who would have ever thought that would have happened?
I know, right? Well, I tried several times to get out of that state, 18 years ago or so. Tried going to Mississippi. That worked until it didn't. And tried going back home to Massachusetts. That worked until it didn't. And yada, yada, yada. And at just the time, Louisville, Kentucky was just too easy for me to get around and do what I needed to do and yada, yada, yada. And, life is great. This podcast might be ending, but we have so much more at the Geekcast Radio Network. I hope everyone checks the whole network out. As I said earlier in the very beginning of this podcast, please, if you're looking for movies on the Geekcast Radio Network, well, it may not be Steve and I, unless we can twist their arm to let us come on as guest hosts. Please check out Cinema Geeks. Kevin, Amanda, Dan, and Matt, they do amazing, amazing work over there. Check them out. They do a weekly show, I believe, which there hasn't been an episode recently. Well, as of this recording, there hasn't been an episode recently. I'm sure by the time this is out, they'll have had a few episodes come out. Wow, 9 years. Holy crap.
Yep.
It's just stupendous that it's been 9 years. Any final thoughts from you, sir? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to reflect on or bring up one final time?
Well, even though the original vision and the original name and the original show's gone, there'll still be other content for you to look forward to in the future.
To the future.
It's time. It's time, Marty, to go back to the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah.
And I think in order to close this out, we're actually going to let Doc Brown have the final say here on Movie Week in Review from us at the Geekcast Radio Network. Keep those film reels rolling. And now, Dr. Emmett L. Brown. Catch you on the flip side, everybody.
Great start. If my calculations are correct, it is now precisely October 21st, 2015. The future has finally arrived. Yes, it is different than we all thought. But don't worry. It just means your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one. Marty! You've got to come back with me!
Where?
Back to the future!
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy